The birth of the modern third-person shooter is commonly attributed to Resident Evil 4, with its over-the-shoulder camera, cinematic flourishes, and shrill voice side characters.
Help! Leon!
The third-person shooter subgenre known as the prestige movie game may not have single-handedly been created by The Last of Us, but The Last of Us sure did bring it to the mainstream in a way like never before.
The Last of Us is many things to many people, but I think for me, the first word that comes to mind is breakthrough. It was the deciding factor for me back in the day between getting a PS4 and an Xbox One, and after 11 years and a whole bunch of hours in The Last of Us later, I'm very happy to say that I chose wisely.
What is happening to me? You chose poorly.
But, on more than just an anecdotal, personal level, The Last of Us was breakthrough for both its writing and performances. Performance is so good, in fact, that the PS3's graphical capabilities literally could not convey just how good they were sometimes. And, after seeing how good all the PS4 Naughty Dog games looked, I sometimes wondered what The Last of Us would look like if it got that modern-gen treatment. Well, wait no longer, said Naughty Dog in 2022, as they had a special surprise waiting for us at Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest.
We wanted to give people the definitive version of the first game that wasn't encumbered by any technology. Wanted to find a way to get even closer to our original vision.
Can it?
From the jump, The Last of Us Part 1, the 2022 remake of the 2013 original, was playing defense with its core audience. The general first reaction was, why do we need this remake? The 2014 remaster is still fully playable on a PS5. With the second reaction that immediately followed regarded the price of $70, and people were not having it.
I'm not here to drudge up an old debate that is surely dead and buried at this point, but I think it's important for the overall context of my own perspective that a lot of these debates were still being had either online or between friend groups when I first played this. And, to an extent, the whole why do we need this still somewhat rests on the remake's shoulders.
Yes, there are the financial reasons, with this game also launching on PC, the great untapped well for PlayStation games. And there are the marketing reasons that rhyme with the HBO's The Blast of Gus. That would certainly drive a number of people to try out the game. So, was that all this was at the end of the day? Nothing but a Q3 earnings projection and a marketing push? I'd like to posit a no to that question, because I think The Last of Us Part 1 was still able to draw more water from the same well, and that by putting a proverbial new coat of paint on the cutscenes, they were able to unlock something that just wasn't possible during the PS3 generation, both because the system's graphical capabilities, as well as Naughty Dog's, at the time, more Hollywood tendencies.
After Crash and Jak and Daxter, Naughty Dog's golden boy for the PS3 era was Nathan Drake, their version of an Indiana Jones-esque adventure in characters.
And, as a part of that Indiana Jones recipe, there came those Hollywood tendencies. Well-written sarcasm.
No, it's not that bad. Look, I have my own bucket.
Larger-than-life set pieces. And very archetypal plots and characters, both in how they act and how they look.
This isn't me painting the first 3 Uncharted games in any negative light either. I flippin' love Uncharted. It's just that, as an objective observer with no skin in the game, I think it's more than fair to say that those Uncharted games were doing their thing to fulfill the archetype, rather than break the archetype down into something more real.
And this is where I start to talk about The Last of Us. If you thought that transition was good, please leave a like. Now, this is not me saying I think The Last of Us invented anything new and revolutionary, and that can be pointed as the main attributor to its success. Rather, what I am saying is that The Last of Us got as much critical and commercial recognition as it did because it took the familiar and brought honesty to it. And this is my point, my main takeaway, which is that The Last of Us, in its writing and performances, expertly conveys these characters as the regular broken people that they are. But the PS3 release could not fully convey just how real these performances were, between its technical limitations and Naughty Dog's very Nathan Drake-esque tendencies when it came to how these characters looked. And it is for this very reason that I think The Last of Us Part 1 is a worthwhile artistic endeavor, because with those extra teraflops, Naughty Dog was able to bring out the full weight of what was always there in the performances to the surface in this remake. Of the 3 examples I want to highlight from this change in visuals, the first and most obvious candidate is the internet's favorite problematic dad, Joel. Joel in the PS3 game looks like Hugh Jackman was cast in a Gerard Butler biopic. He's got that grizzled old guy Hollywood look, but the writing of Joel and Troy Baker's performance of the character, while parallel to that idea, are grounded in much more honesty than Joel's box art face would give off at a first glance. You have to see past the PS3 render to properly view the reality of Joel, but with the remake, that's no longer needed. While not the most night and day difference, those extra PS5 teraflops on Joel add weight and emotional realism to better connect to him in every scene, making each scene that much more impactful. Next up is Tess, and this is where the remake really takes it to the next level. Of all 3 examples I will bring up today, I think Tess is the most impressive just from that initial first glance look. Tess in the PS3 version looks like a Revlon commercial. She's just so shiny. This shine and gloss the PS3 game gives her paints her in a different light than how she was written and performed to be viewed in. But with the remake, there's not 1 ounce of gloss to be seen. She looks worn, she looks her age, and most importantly, she looks like this world has taken its toll on her. Her calm and collected nature stand juxtaposed to her appearance, giving you some real insight in what she's had to do to survive and what that in turn has done to her. Finally, there's Bill, one of my favorite characters in this game and my personal pick for the character that benefits the most from this remake. PS3 Bill looks greasy and insane, like a fat Psycho Sam from Hunt for the Wilder People.
Push! Man! Pushman!
Bill, as he is written and performed, is the grounded, broken, and real version of the prepper stereotype. But with the PS3 render, it's all stereotype, making the reality and nuance of his character at times a bit overshadowed by the stereotype. In the PS5 version, while not as impressive as Tess at a first glance, Bill's nuance can shine and allows me to have a much more upfront, in-the-moment sympathetic view of the character rather than an analytical sympathy after the fact. Remakes are almost always a sticky business in the games industry. What justifies being called a remake? How much has to be remade for that to be valid? Does a remake so close in intent and design to the original devalue that original game? And should studios even devote resources into what so often is more about teraflops and familiar IP than it is about lasting playability? Would I rather have gotten a new Naughty Dog game in the 4 years they spent remastering/remaking their previous 11 years worth of work? Absolutely. But I don't think their efforts were wasted, as the visual upgrades to the original Last of Us have deepened my connection to the game's themes and its characters. And by them stripping away the more Hollywood archetypal visuals, they've given us something that will hopefully last us quite a while.